The room held its breath. Cameras clicked. Champagne fizzed. A $1,000 chandelier caught firelight from the ballroom's arching glass dome. And at the center of it all, surrounded by whispers, camera crews, and venture capital royalty, Isla Hart leaned over a glossy obsidian chessboard and whispered with a smirk, "Checkmate." Except this time, it wasn't her move. The man sitting across from her didn't flinch. He was wearing a faded navy, Henley stretched across strong shoulders, calloused hands folded gently on his lap like he had nothing to prove. Cole Bennett, unknown, uninvited, and entirely unimpressed. He tilted his head, voice quiet, steady. "Actually, checkmate's mine." "And if checkmate's mine." The ballroom fell silent. Isla's fingers froze mid-air, hovering above the white bishop. Her expression didn't crack, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. 3 moves ago, she'd been playing a joke, a half-mocking challenge she issued every year at her company's annual tech fundraiser. "Beat me in chess and I'll marry you." A headline hook. A dare no one ever won. Until now. Until this man. A construction foreman who smelled faintly of cedarwood and wind, who had walked into her private event with a borrowed pass and a little girl clinging to his arm, and who now, with impossible calm, had just dismantled her in 3 brilliant, deliberate moves. The press had already swarmed. Lila, the little girl, was squealing somewhere near the velvet ropes, clapping her hands like her favorite book had just come to life. Someone yelled out, "Does this mean the CEO is getting married?" Isla stood slowly, spine iron straight, lips pressed together. This was supposed to be a fundraising stunt, a light joke for a cause she barely cared about. But now, the world was watching. Her board was watching. Investors were watching. And her opponent wasn't smiling. He simply rose, nodded, and walked away. No follow-up, no fanfare, just a glance at his daughter and a quiet, "Let's go, bug." The entire room gawked as he vanished into the marble corridor, like he didn't just bring down the queen in front of a billion-dollar empire. 2 hours later, Isla was still in her penthouse office at the top of Hart Tech Tower, the chessboard replaying in her mind. She'd reviewed the footage. 3 moves. 3. No one had ever beaten her, not in private, not in public, and definitely not in 3 turns. Her assistant, a twitchy 6-year-old named Marla, hovered by the glass wall. "The clip has 26 million views," Marla muttered. "Twitter is calling it the checkmate proposal. Your board is, requesting a strategy meeting." "Strategy?" Isla murmured without turning. "For what? It was a stunt. Except you said it on record, in front of 6 cameras, at a charity gala, and he won, and left. Which is kind of romantic, in a rugged Netflix, dad sort of way." Isla turned, sharp. "He's a construction worker. He's also an ex-chess prodigy, national under-18 Reals champion, quit the circuit when his wife died. There's already a GoFundMe to send him and his daughter to Disneyland. America is obsessed, Isla. Your stock is up 3 points since this morning." She exhaled through her nose. This wasn't about chess or pride. It was about control. And right now, she was losing it. Then Marla dropped the real bomb. "Your board says if you don't lean into the moment, they'll assume you're rejecting a potential billion-dollar publicity arc. They want a fake dating rollout, a month, just enough to ride the wave." Isla stared. "You're serious?" "They're calling it Project Checkmate." Meanwhile, across the bay, in a quiet little craftsman house that still smelled faintly of sawdust and pancakes, Cole tucked Lila into bed. She was glowing. "Daddy, you were like a knight. But with pawns." He chuckled softly, brushing her hair back. "You know I only did it for the library." "I know," she whispered, curling up with her stuffed raccoon. "But you still won. And now the whole world knows you're a hero." Cole kissed her forehead. I don't need the world to know, Bug. Just you. He turned out the light and stood for a moment, watching her breathe. But what he didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that while the storm outside began to roll in, Isla Hart was already en route with a contract in her briefcase, a camera crew on standby, and one clear goal: turn the man who beat her into the man she pretends to love. For the headlines, for the company, for control. She thought she was playing the game. But in reality, it had only just begun. The knock came just as the rain did. Soft at first, then steadier. By the time Cole Bennett opened the front door, the sky had turned a soft gunmetal gray, and the porch light flickered over the silhouette of a woman in a long, tailored black coat. Umbrella clutched in one hand, a leather briefcase in the other. She didn't wait for an invitation. Isla Hart stepped over the threshold like she owned it because she was used to owning everything. Skyscrapers, algorithms, headlines. But this wasn't a boardroom. It was a modest, two-bedroom home filled with hand-carved furniture, faint scent of vanilla from last night's muffins, and a child's drawing pinned crookedly to the fridge behind Cole's shoulder. He hadn't said a word yet. "I'm not here to apologize," she said, shaking rain from her coat. "And I'm not here to thank you." Cole leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Didn't think you were." That voice again. Quiet. Firm. Like the world had already taught him not to waste breath. Isla swallowed. Her shoes clicked against the hardwood as she placed her briefcase down on the nearest table and opened it with a practiced flick. "I'm here with an offer." He raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. She clicked her tongue. "Public opinion is a currency. Right now people think we're something, that we matter, together." She hated how those last words sounded in her mouth. "My board wants to capitalize. 1 month. You and me. Public appearances. A few magazine spreads. Hand-holding maybe. I'm not asking for romance. I'm asking for narrative." He didn't move, just stared at her. Then glanced briefly toward the hallway where Lila slept. "Is this what you do?" he asked quietly. "Treat people like algorithms? Equations to balance?" Isla stiffened. "I treat people like what they are: flawed, unpredictable variables that can cost millions if not managed." Cole shook his head, jaw tightening. "My daughter asked me to play a charity match, not enter some PR circus." "She likes books, doesn't she?" Isla replied almost too smoothly. "What if I told you Hartech's educational fund could rebuild the library she loves? Add a new children's wing? Computers? Story hours?" Now his expression shifted just a little. She'd found his fault line. "And what do I have to be in return?" he asked. "Your trophy? Your stunt boyfriend?" Her voice lowered. "You already made the world fall in love with you. All I'm asking is that you let them believe it for 30 days. A long silence stretched between them. Just the sound of rain and a distant thunder roll. Then Cole turned and walked into the kitchen. Isla blinked, almost startled, until he came back holding a mug. Steaming. Cinnamon. He handed it to her without a word. "I don't drink caffeine after 5, she said automatically. He gave a small shrug. "It's herbal. My daughter makes it." There was no manipulation in his eyes. No game. Just quiet, unwavering clarity. It unnerved her more than any hostile takeover. "You get 3 conditions," he said at last. "First, nothing that upsets Lila. Second, I stay in my home. I don't need a mansion in the hills. And third?" Isla asked. He looked her dead in the eye. "Don't lie to me, not once. If this is going to be a game for you, fine, but I won't play it blind." Isla didn't flinch. She was used to boardrooms, battles, and men who raised voices when they couldn't raise arguments. But this was different. She pulled a sleek silver pen from her coat pocket and signed the top of the agreement. 30 days, she murmured. Cole nodded. Then we go back to normal." She didn't say it aloud, but a thought crept through her like a shadow. "You don't even know what normal looks like anymore, Isla." The next day, the charade began. A staged coffee run in front of a conveniently positioned photographer. A slow walk through the local park, Lila skipping beside them. Isla, in heels too expensive for gravel, smiled like she'd rehearsed it. Cole said little, but the arm he draped around his daughter was real. And when Lila tugged Isla's sleeve and asked, "Do you know how to build blanket forts?" Isla hesitated, then nodded. That night, in Cole's living room, Lila giggled from beneath a tangle of old quilts and flashlights. Cole sat back with a quiet laugh, watching as Isla tried, and failed, to understand pillow architecture. Her hair had come loose. Her cheeks were flushed. And in that flickering light, she looked less like a billionaire and more like a woman who had forgotten who she used to be. Later, as they folded the blankets and Lila fell asleep in a puddle of giggles, Isla asked quietly, "Do you regret letting me in?" Cole looked at her. Really looked. "No," he said, "but I don't believe you're here for the reasons you tell yourself." She didn't answer, because part of her didn't either. But the real checkmate was still days away. And this time, neither of them would see it coming. By the end of the first week, the world couldn't get enough of them. The headlines were breathless. Ice Queen falls for blue-collar king? Tech CEO's surprise romance melts the internet. From chessboard to checkmate hearts. But in the little blue house across the bay, Cole Bennett didn't read the headlines. He was busy tightening a loose railing on the porch, helping Lila with her math homework, and quietly watching a billionaire who had never used a screwdriver try to help him install a ceiling fan. Isla Hart, who usually operated in sleek boardrooms and glass towers, had traded her heels for mismatched socks that Lila insisted she wear. Her coat hung awkwardly on the peg by the door. Her laptop sat unopened on the kitchen counter for 3 days now. Something was shifting. It wasn't in grand declarations or staged photos. It was in the small, invisible collisions. Like when Isla absent-mindedly poured 2 mugs of tea instead of 1. Or when Cole found her standing in the hallway late at night, staring at Lila's drawing taped to the wall, a wonky sketch of a woman in a crown and a man in a flannel shirt holding hands with a little girl. Isla whispered, almost too quietly. She drew me with a smile. Cole didn't respond, but he didn't need to. On the 7th day, Isla sat on the edge of the porch, watching the light fade behind the pines. She held a small, hand-carved wooden knight in her palm, one of Cole's old chess pieces. It was worn smooth from years of handling. Lila had found it in a box in the attic and handed it to Isla like it was treasure. "He made these when he quit tournaments," she said proudly. "Said he was done chasing things that didn't matter." Isla didn't know what stunned her more, that Cole once chased greatness, or that he walked away from it. She found him later, in the small garage, where he kept his tools in quiet. "You gave it all up," she said softly. Cole looked up from the workbench. "Chess? Yeah. Why?" He hesitated, then wiped his hands on a rag. "My wife was sick, and my daughter was 3. I could win trophies, or I could be there every morning when she woke up. Wasn't a hard choice." His voice held no bitterness, just truth. And Isla realized in that moment she had never sacrificed anything without calculating what she'd gain in return. The next day brought a shift neither of them expected. They were scheduled for a magazine shoot, glossy, posed, pre-planned. Cole hated it, Isla loathed it. But they showed up anyway. The set was a rented rooftop in downtown San Francisco, windy, cold, artificial. "Hold hands," the photographer barked. "Smile. Look into each other's eyes." Cole glanced sideways. Isla tried, but her smile never reached her eyes. "Let's try a kiss," the photographer called out. The world seemed to stop. Isla's breath caught. Cole blinked, surprised. Lila, watching from the side, clutched her stuffed raccoon a little tighter. And Isla did something no one expected. She stepped back. "No," she said flatly. "We're not selling that." The room went silent. The photographer laughed awkwardly. "Miss Hart, it's what sells." "I said no," she repeated, sharper this time. She didn't look at Cole. She just walked away, down the stairs, into the street. Cole followed a moment later, finding her by a railing overlooking the bay. "You all right?" he asked quietly. She nodded, eyes on the water. "I thought I could control this. Control you. This story." A beat passed. "I've never cared about what people thought of me," she added. "But Lila, she drew me smiling. And now, I don't want to ruin that." Cole leaned on the railing beside her. "You haven't." Another pause. "She believes we're something," Isla whispered. "And maybe, I want to believe it too. But I don't know how." Cole didn't touch her. He didn't move closer. He just let her words settle between them. Then he said something that shifted the air. "You don't have to know yet, just don't run from it." And, for the first time in years, Isla didn't. That night, Lila asked if Isla would read her a bedtime story. Not Cole, Isla. She climbed into bed, her voice a little shaky as she opened the book. Halfway through, she looked down and realized Lila was already asleep, clutching her arm like it belonged there. And Isla Hart Tech Titan, Media Queen, lone player on the board stayed exactly where she was. Still, quiet. Home. But the next morning, everything changed. A sleek black car pulled up outside Cole's house. A man in a suit stepped out sharp, cold, corporate. Isla answered the door and froze. "Miss Hart," he said crisply, "the board has called an emergency meeting." Effective, immediately. She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" He held up a folder. "Because someone leaked your original Checkmate contract. And the press is already calling this romance a fraud." Cole stood behind her, still in his flannel and boots, jaw tightening. For the first time in 7 days, Isla's world tilted. Because this wasn't just a PR disaster. It was the moment Cole and Lila might find out the truth. That everything started as a calculated move. Even if now, she wasn't sure she wanted to win anymore. The air in the room changed. 1 minute, Isla Hart was standing at Cole's front door, with wind in her hair and rain soft against the windows. The next, everything was colder, sharper. The man in the suit had said just enough. Leaked contract. Fraud. Emergency meeting. But it wasn't the board she was afraid of. It was Cole Bennett, standing behind her, eyes locked on the folder in the man's hands. His daughter's laughter echoed faintly from the hallway, a haunting reminder of everything that was suddenly at risk. Cole's voice was low. "What contract?" Isla turned slowly. She could lie. She could spin it. Twist the story like she always did in shareholder meetings. But for the first time, she didn't want to. Because this wasn't a game anymore. This was a man who had built trust slowly, quietly, and handed it to her without fanfare. And she'd gambled it all. "I should have told you," Isla said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a contract. In the beginning. The board drafted it right after the chess match went viral. Cole didn't blink. "You mean, after you made me look like your prize? Like I was something to parade?" "I didn't know you then," she said quickly. "I didn't know Lila. I didn't know what this would turn into." He stepped back, like her words physically moved him. "And what is this now, Isla? Still business? Still branding?" "No," she said. "Too fast. Too desperate. It stopped being that days ago." But the damage was done. He wasn't yelling. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her like someone who'd spent too many years building walls and now regretted ever letting one come down. "I brought you into my home," he said quietly. Into my daughter's world. You told me you weren't playing games. I'm not, she said. Not anymore. But it was too late. He turned and walked down the hall. A second later, Isla heard the soft click of a bedroom door. She stood frozen in the living room, the walls closing in. The contract in that man's hands felt heavier than steel. Should I inform the board you'll attend remotely? The assistant asked. Isla didn't respond, just nodded. An hour later, she sat in a virtual meeting, her face cold and expressionless in the soft glow of her laptop screen. Board members argued through pixelated squares. This scandal could destabilize our stock. The internet's already running with betrayal narratives. Damage control is critical, Isla. She waited until the noise died down. Then she said one thing. I'll take full responsibility. The board went quiet. You'll what? One of them asked. I'll step back for now, from public appearances, from this romance. Let the heat pass. You'll leave the story unfinished? Another challenged. She nodded. Sometimes the best moves aren't the flashiest. They're the quiet ones. Strategic retreat. They hated it, but they agreed. She ended the call, closed the laptop, and let her head drop into her hands. The silence in Cole's house was deafening now, the kind of silence that follows a storm. Except this time, she was the one who caused it. Later that night, Cole stood in the garage, turning a chess piece in his fingers. A queen, unfinished. The wood still raw. He didn't hear Isla step in. I didn't come here to fall for you, she said softly. And I definitely didn't come here to fall for Lila. Cole didn't turn around. I know what it looked like, she continued. That it was all a setup, a performance. And maybe in the beginning it was. But you both of you didn't just pull me into your home. You pulled me out of something I didn't even know I was drowning in. Still, no reply. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Cole. I just want you to know, this is the first thing in years that wasn't about control or power. It was just about being. Finally, he turned. And for the first time, Isla didn't see judgment in his eyes. Just sadness. I believe you, he said, but that doesn't make it hurt less. She nodded. Her throat tightened. I'm leaving in the morning, she whispered. The board wants me gone from the headlines until things settle. It's probably the right move. He didn't try to stop her. And that hurt more than anything. At dawn, Isla stood at the curb with her bag in hand. No driver, no cameras, just her and the cool morning air. She turned once, hoping, maybe, that the door might open, that Cole might appear, that Lila might come running barefoot with a crayon drawing and one of those wild, dimpled grins. But no one came. So she got into the car, alone. Back in the house, Cole stood by the window, unseen, watching. He wanted to chase her. But how could he? She had broken something fragile, something Lila believed in, something he had started to believe in. He felt a small tug on his sleeve. Daddy? Lila stood beside him in pajamas, hair messy, eyes blinking. Where's Isla? Cole hesitated, then knelt beside her. She had to go, Bug. Lila's lip trembled. Was it because of me? No, baby, he whispered. Not even close. She looked down, then reached into her little hoodie pocket and pulled something out. The wooden knight. She left this on my pillow, she said. She said it was mine now, but I think she wanted you to have it. Cole took the piece, heart clenching. The carving was smooth, unfinished, like her story in their life. He held it for a long time, staring out at the empty street. And for the first time since Isla Hart walked into his world, he didn't know what the next move was. The city didn't feel like hers anymore. High above San Francisco, Isla Hart sat in her penthouse wrapped in silence. No camera crews. No headlines. No Cole. Just floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a skyline she'd once conquered and now felt miles away from. She had always prided herself on control, precision, a mind that could map outcomes before most people blinked. But this time, she hadn't calculated the variable that mattered most. Feeling. Not the kind you leverage, not the kind you weaponize. The kind that sinks into your bones at 2 a.m., whispering regrets you didn't think you were capable of. Everywhere she turned, she saw them. The mismatched socks Lila made her wear, the wooden knight she couldn't stop touching, Cole's flannel she accidentally wore to sleep once, still folded in her closet like it meant something more than comfort. And in her dreams, she wasn't in boardrooms anymore. She was on that dusty porch, watching the way Cole looked at his daughter like she was the whole damn universe, and just for a few impossible seconds at Isla like she could belong there too. Across the bay, Cole paced his living room. The couch still held the faint imprint of where she used to sit, curled up with a book Lila made her read twice. He could still hear her voice fumbling over bedtime fairy tales, and the quiet laugh she tried to hide when she accidentally burned toast. He wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Just hollow. Because somewhere between pretending and performing, Isla had cracked through something in him, something he didn't realize was still breakable. She hadn't just walked into their lives, she'd rearranged them. And now, everything felt wrong without her. But how do you rebuild trust with someone who only came to win, and walked away just as they were finally learning how to stay? That answer came not from Isla, but from Lila. It started with a whisper. "Daddy," she said one afternoon, curled on his lap with a sketch pad. I think she was scared. Scared of what, Bug? Lila looked up with all the wisdom of a 9-year-old girl who saw more than most adults ever would. Of losing. Not on the board. In here. She pointed to her chest. Cole blinked. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because deep down, he was scared of the same thing. Meanwhile, in Isla's penthouse, her assistant Marla barged in uninvited, arms full of printouts, and her phone shaking. "You need to see this." Isla raised an eyebrow. "I said no press for 2 weeks." "It's not press," Marla said. "It's him." She held up a tablet. The screen showed a grainy video. Cole, at the downtown library fundraiser. Lila by his side, a chessboard set up in front of him. But this time, he wasn't playing. He was teaching. A group of kids crowded around as Cole gently walked them through moves, laughing, patient. And then, unmistakably, he said, "I only came here because someone taught me not all risks are stupid. Some are just a little late." The clip cut to Lila whispering something off mic. "She's gonna see this, right?" Isla's breath caught. She closed the tablet and stood. Not a word, not a smile, just the first clarity she'd had in days. She was done retreating. Cole didn't expect her. He was packing up folding chairs when a shadow stretched across the pavement beside him. She stood there in jeans and a soft blue sweater. No makeup, no press behind her, no script, just Isla. "I got your message," she said softly. He looked up. Didn't smile. But didn't turn away either. "I didn't send one." She nodded. Lila did. Silence lingered between them, like a cord waiting to resolve. "I didn't know how to come back," she admitted. "I've never had to." "You didn't have to know how," Cole said. "You just had to want to." Their eyes met, the air thick with unspoken truths. And then, just barely, Isla smiled. "I missed the porch," she whispered. "The toast. The bedtime stories." "You were really bad at reading them," Cole said. "I know," she laughed. But she liked it anyway. Another pause. "Why are you really here?" he asked. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the wooden knight, held it out to him. "Because you left this story unfinished." He took the piece slowly, fingers brushing hers. Then he stepped closer, close enough to feel the static between them, the ache. The forgiveness neither said but both wanted. "I'm not afraid of losing anymore," she whispered. Cole looked at her, really looked, and This time, he smiled. "Good," he said, "because I wasn't finished teaching you the game." That night, on the same porch under the same stars, Lila curled in Isla's lap with a book, Cole nearby, whittling a fresh piece of wood. Not a knight this time. A queen. Unfinished. But ready to become something real. Because, in the end, it wasn't about the moves that brought them together. It was about the space between them, the quiet understanding that some things you don't win, you earn. The gala was everything Isla Hart hated: spotlights, scrutiny, staged smiles. But tonight, it was different. Cole stood at the entrance of the ballroom in a crisp charcoal suit. Nothing flashy, just clean and confident. His usually calloused hands tugged nervously at his cuffs. Beside him, Lila beamed in a sky-blue dress, holding Isla's hand like she belonged to both of them now. Isla had invited them publicly, not as guests, but as family. Tonight was Isla's official retirement from Hartech's public face. She was stepping down to invest in education, community tech programs, and yes, chess outreach. Her final act? Donating $10 million to the very library Cole had once saved with a simple appearance at a chess table. She looked radiant, no longer the Ice Queen. Her gown was sleek, but her smile was warmer than the chandeliers above. Cameras flashed as she leaned into the mic. "You all know how this started. A challenge, a joke, one I didn't expect anyone to win." She turned to Cole in the audience. "But the truth is, he didn't just win a game. He reminded me that life is about more than control. It's about connection." Cole stepped forward. The room hushed. He pulled out something from his jacket pocket, a small wooden pawn, worn and smoothed at the edges. "The first piece Lila ever gave me," he said. "She told me I needed to believe in small things again." He looked at Isla. "And then, I met the woman who made me believe in big things too." Isla blinked back tears. "And I guess I just have one final move left," Cole said with a small smile. He dropped to one knee. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Isla stared, stunned, and then smiled, real, messy, joyful. She dropped to her knees too, grabbing his face. "No chess metaphors, just yes," she whispered. The ballroom erupted. Lila squealed and ran up to them, throwing her arms around them both. We cut to a quiet scene a few months later. A chessboard rests on a patio table, a sunrise in the background. Cole is teaching Lila and Isla how to build custom wooden pieces. They're laughing. No paparazzi, no headlines, no stage lights. Just love and checkmate of the heart.